I cannot believe that the New York Times are admitting this, but they are. Ukraine has lost 20% of its weapons and armor at the start of the counteroffensive. 20%. You see, the thing is with the New York Times and the BBC and so on is that they're always late to the truth. You know, when something doesn't matter anymore, or when, you know, everyone has already said it, then they finally give you the truth after the fact. I mean, this counteroffensive supposedly was to start in spring, right? And then it was pushed all the way to June. I mean, it's been weeks. It's been weeks since I showed you this video of, you know, a column of smoking Ukrainian tanks, or more accurately, German and American tanks being used by Ukraine that were laying useless, dead, and smoking on fire in a field. Okay, so yeah, I think it was very obvious that they've lost a high percentage of their weapons. Now, they say in the first 2 weeks, 20% of its weaponry sent to the battlefield damaged or destroyed, and this is according to American and European officials. The toll, look at this, the toll includes some of the formidable Western fighting machines, tanks, and armored personnel carriers, or APCs, the Ukrainians were counting on to beat back the Russians. Really? I mean, they were certainly counting on them, but so were the manufacturers, because they get to make money, don't they? Right? Of course they were going to oversell this crap. Of course. It's junk. It's useless. The startling rate of losses dropped to about 10% in the ensuing weeks. But that good news, apparently that's good news, obscures some grim realities. The losses have also slowed because the counteroffensive itself has slowed, and even halted in places, as Ukrainian soldiers struggle against Russia's formidable defenses. And despite the losses, the Ukrainians have so far taken just 5 of the 60 miles they hope to recover. 5 miles of the 60, and these guys are dreaming. They think they're gonna, you know, they're gonna have a joyride, split the Russian army into 2. I've never seen such, you know, delusion since the German army in World War II, right? That's the last time someone was that delusional about defeating Russians. Please, don't do this to yourselves. Finally, the New York Times also admit that Russia has formidable defenses. Yes, so we've been saying, you know, whoever devised and hyped this counteroffensive wasn't actually counting on Ukraine winning. They were counting on Ukraine being given, or shall we say, afforded weapon systems after they're bought, right? Remember, this is a cash cow. Ukraine is about making money. It's not about winning. It's about making money. And actually, the more Ukraine, you know, loses, shall we say, the more money they get to make. The longer the war, the more money, right? Because you have to replace all of these units that have been lost. Now, you know, obviously these are done in packages. So perhaps next package, you know, they'll give them, who the hell knows? Instead of Bradleys, maybe finally they get some M1A2 Abrams. Maybe, you know, it doesn't matter. The point is that you have armored personnel carriers and armored vehicles being destroyed, and then Ukraine needs to replace them. Whether they come from Britain or they come from America is makes no difference. It's the same industry. It's the same sector making money, generating profits from this war. So they say Russia has many months to prepare for the counteroffensive, and the front is littered with mines, tank traps, and dug-in troops, while Russian reconnaissance drones and attack helicopters fly overhead with increasing frequency. I mean, again, I went through this with you weeks ago. Weeks. It's been weeks, maybe a month now, that I was explaining to you the defenses. You know, they have, first of all, you know, a trench, zigzag trenches for men. And then after that, they have the dragon's teeth. Then after that, some barbed wire. And then after that, they have mines. And then after that, maybe more dragon's teeth. You know, it's just multiple lines of defense. I mean, of defenses. You're dreaming if you think you can get through that. I feel sorry for the poor sods who were sent in to you know, take on the or to spearhead the attack. They were smoked. The Bradley fighting vehicles, long coveted by the Ukrainians, have been running over anti-tank mines on a daily basis. Soldiers who have fought in the vehicles say, "Wow." I mean, I feel you know, a deep sense of relief for anyone who survives in a Bradley from a mine. Who survives from a mine attack while seated in a Bradley. Really formidable. The problem is that the vehicle's disabled and cannot move anymore, so it doesn't really do you much good, does it? It's gone. The tracks are blown up. You're not repairing that thing. The Russians will pick you off. Ukraine's top military officer, General Valery Zaluzhny, expressed frustration that Ukraine is fighting without Western F-16 warplanes, which the United States only recently agreed to allow Ukrainian pilots to be trained on, but which are not expected to be delivered for several months at least. Again, these people are delusional. Even if you gave Ukraine F-16s this morning, yesterday, a week ago, you cannot clear minefields with F-16s. There's only so much you can do and so many bombs you can drop. This is 1,000 kilometers long. The front is 1,000 kilometers long. You can't clear that with F-16s. You cannot shoot down $35,000 drones, which is cheap for a drone, right? But the drones themselves are exquisite, right, in terms of engineering and their success rate. I'm talking about the Lancet drones or the Shahed drones. These things are so cheap to produce, and they are so effective, and they are one of the main reasons Russia's winning. You cannot fire an F-16 from a howitzer. You know why? Because planes don't fit into a barrel that is designed for 155 millimeter rounds. You need artillery shells. You're not going to win this war with F-16s. I feel like Zelensky is like some boy who's lost in a toy store or something. And he's like, give me this one. Now I want this one. Does this guy have any fucking clue what he is doing? How is this guy running an army and a country in war? What is going on? You can't win this, man. Your best tool is diplomacy. But that's too woke for you. I know you're not going to get it, Your best tool is a pen. It's a pen, man. A pen. You sign a deal and you abide by it. F-16s won't help you. The F-16s will be shot down, first of all. And the Russians have said, if you fly an F-16, if we see a single F-16 in Ukraine, we will consider it as a nuclear threat, because you can fit a nuclear bomb, a nuclear payload. You can attach it to an F-16. You can drop a nuclear bomb with an F-16. Technically, right? So the Russians said, we are not going to waste time in the middle of a battle trying to figure out whether this F-16 or that F-16 has a nuclear warhead on it. We are going to shoot it down and we will respond. I mean, that's what they're saying. It sounds like what they're saying, with nuclear weapons. Once again, Ukraine is not worth a nuclear war. I'm really sorry to say this. It's not. Maybe for Ukraine, but the problem is a nuclear war concerns the rest of the planet. Ukraine is not worth a nuclear war. It's just not. It is not worth it. This is not worth it. Cut your losses. This is delusional. It's delusional. They're really going to... Remember, there are red lines. I know the Russians, they keep moving their red lines. Before they said if Germany sends anything, that's considered an act of war. And if NATO supplies Ukraine, we will consider that an act of war, and we will shoot down those supplies, and we will respond accordingly. And then Germany just sends helmets first and bulletproof vests, and then they start sending rifles and tanks, and now they want to of course host all the training programs in Germany for the Ukrainian troops. Yeah, and the Russians, they don't respond. They don't respond like they said they would. But my argument here, and it's called common sense. How many times are you going to test the water and try and push their buttons? How many times are you going to do that before you really cross the line, and then Russia responds with great overwhelming force? Just like this war. How many times are you going to lie to them, Mr. Hollande or Madame Merkel? How many agreements are you going to fake? How many weapons and how many Ukrainians are you going to train before you piss off the Russians and they come in, just like they did? Why do they don't learn from this lesson? They just keep going, like keep going until the Russians overwhelm you, and then we go blame the Russians. Look at how evil the Russians are. Putin woke up this morning and he wanted to eat babies and just nuke Ukraine and cause a global famine because he's evil. No. Russia's pulling out of the grain deal because you didn't let Russia sell its grain and its fertilizer and its ammonia and its agricultural products, or let its agricultural bank. That's why join SWIFT. That's why they pulled out. Russia invaded Ukraine because you didn't respect Minsk agreements, because you shell ethnic Russians in eastern Ukraine. That's why. It's a reaction, not an action. How many times are you going to piss off the Russians before they nuke someone or do something, that is, I mean, apocalyptic, frankly. This war is already bad enough. I mean, you're not leaving much, headroom here. I suppose the next thing that comes after all this is a nuclear war, and anyone who knows the Cold War knows that, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, it was already bad enough. It was very close. And can you imagine that now, I still can't wrap my brain around this. I still can't wrap my mind around this, that now is even worse than during the Cuban Missile Crisis. I can't believe it. Because it sounds so outlandish. It sounds so insane and far-fetched, and yet it's not. It's true. So not only are the Ukrainians delusional, not only are these bloodthirsty, disgusting people on the BBC and on CNN, these bloodthirsty morons who they don't have to fight the war, whining about F-16s night and day, not realizing that these are not going to help. So not only will F-16s not help Ukraine win the war, but on top of that, they risk a nuclear confrontation with Russia. How dumb can you be? I wish they would, I wish it was just them who would get nuked and they would leave everybody alone. But unfortunately, they inhabit this planet with us. And, that's why I'm outraged, because they're putting everyone at risk. Do you really think this is a joke? I don't think this is the time to, it's not something where you want to, we'll wait and find out. What do you mean wait and find out? You want to find out if they respond with a nuclear weapon? Are you out of your fucking mind? This is not something you wait and find out with. You can't find out. If you find out, there will be nothing left. We will all die. Lunatics. These people are lunatics. You got Ukrainians and their cheerleaders in the media who are so dumb, who are so dense and thick and stupid, who think the more weapons you give Ukraine, the better. On the other hand, you got the weapons companies who are more than happy to hear all of this stuff. This is amazing. You're doing their PR for them. You're doing their advertisements. You're doing their publicity for them. You are basically selling the weapons for them. They sell themselves. There's no reason for them to do anything. Just now, you've got BAE Systems in the UK, got a new contract to produce 155mm rounds. You got General Dynamics with their plant in Scranton. They're expanding it. There's the army spending $1.5 billion to increase production. You're never going to catch up with the Russians. It's game over. This war is a war of attrition, and it's being done with drones, and it's being done with artillery. Russia has more of these things than Ukraine, and it's using them better than Ukraine. And it can produce more than Ukraine. It's not just Ukraine. It's the 50 nations, 50 that are supplying Ukraine. They cannot compete with Russia's industry. What are you trying to do here? Going back to the article, this brigade lost 30% of the Leopards it was given. 30% of the tanks gone. Trust me, bro. They just need F-16s. Trust me, bro. Trust me. Just give them one F-16. They're going to nuke Putin. The Ukrainian authorities say the army has so far advanced the deepest in southern areas of the Donetsk region, but no more than about 5 miles. 5 miles from the former front line in Velika Novosilka. It faces another 55 miles to reach the Sea of Azov, a primary goal of the counteroffensive, as it would cut the land bridge to Crimea, wreaking havoc with Russia's already shaky logistics. Shaky logistics? Did you not read your own article, your own writing? Ukraine is the one that has shaky logistics. Even when they're given the weapons, they don't know how to use them. I suppose that's just, being disadvantaged. Shaky logistics would mean they're never getting the weapons. But it's true, they have shaky logistics. Logistics is not just about getting supplies from point A to point B. It's about producing the fucking supplies in the first place. Ukraine is unable to compete with Russia. The 50 nations arming Ukraine cannot compete with Russia. This is basic math. These are figures. They're statistics. You can't argue with science. The production capacity is at full maximum limit right now in the West. And Russia fires more rounds in one day than they produce in a month. Let that sink in, please. F-16s. Look, you give them the weapons, and they're going to fail. What do you think an F-16 is going to do? Get shot down by an S-400, or maybe cause the Russians to nuke you? Please, stop with this madness. Same thing, always BBC, New York Times, they always admit the truth, but only when it's convenient. Because when if they actually reported this while it was happening, people would give them crap. You know, they would start chasing after them and yelling at them. How dare you say this about Ukraine? You're undermining the Ukrainian war effort. You're a Putin puppet. You know, you can't speak the truth because it's inconvenient. But now, you know, we're already in July. So goodbye spring counteroffensive. Now it's okay to say this because, you know, it's a month old. The news is a month old. Great coverage. Well done. You know, like as if we needed the New York Times to tell us this stuff. It's just funny seeing them finally admit it. That's all.